Hey guys, welcome to another Final Cut Pro X tutorial, and in this video I'm going to show you how to do multicam editing. Really simple to understand the way I'm going to show you this, right? I'm going to make it really simple to understand. Now, I've only done one Final Cut Pro X video before. It's a complete tutorial for Final Cut Pro X showing you everything of Final Cut Pro X to a high enough level that you can really understand it and you can begin to edit videos to a high quality. Look in the description below and you can watch that video. It shows you everything. And hundreds of people have said in the comments it's the best Final Cut Pro X tutorial on YouTube. So check that out if you want to learn everything about Final Cut Pro X. But again, this is about how to do a multicam edit. And I'm going to keep it really simple so you can understand. Now what we've got here is I've imported the footage already. All this is covered in my main tutorial linked in the description below. There are 4 cameras filming this gig by a covers band who do the songs of The Who. You know, talking about my generation. It's a Who covers band. And they did a gig and it was filmed by 4 cameras. Each of the cameras has a soundtrack recording as part of the footage. Now, just to say, if you also had a high quality separate audio soundtrack recorded with high quality mics to a standalone digital recorder, you would import that and include that in your multicam edit, and that could then be selected as your audio soundtrack. Okay, but we don't have that. We've just got 4 cams, each with its own soundtrack, all recorded the gig at the same time from different angles. The other thing to notice, they've all got different frame rates. 3 of the cameras recorded at 25 frames per second and 1 of the cams was recording there at 50 frames per second. Okay, that doesn't matter either. Don't worry about that. Okay, and the other thing to note before we go is I'm using an early version of Final Cut. It's a bit old now, version 10.3.4. So this will work for older versions and versions since then. So okay, we've imported our 4 clips, and what we do is it's a good idea to name them, because the imported footage might have strings of numbers and it doesn't really tell you what it is, and it's good to have a title that's easy to understand for each camera, which you'll see when we get into how to do the edit. So we select the first bit of footage and we look in the inspector box over here, which is usually defaulted to that view. Now if you don't see this inspector box here on the right, you just click and activate the icon with the faders to bring in the inspector box. Then switch to information, the eye icon in a little circle, and there you'll see, look, camera name for the selected clip. And we can give it a name easier to understand than the title of the actual piece of video clip that we've imported. So this camera is stage right, and it's a handheld that zooms in on the band and moves around. I've called this the close cam. You just type in there whatever title you want. No need to enter or anything. You just type it in and it remembers it. This camera is a GoPro at the back of the stage fixed. It doesn't move. So I've called this one stage rear. You just type in there whatever title, I'm calling it stage rear. Right. This camera is the front of the stage from far back. This camera never moves, it's on a tripod, and I've called this one center cam. And then this camera is slightly to the left of the stage, nearer to the stage, and it's also a camera that doesn't move on a tripod, so I've called this left cam. Just type the titles in there and that's it, right? So give them a title. You don't have to do that, but it's a good idea to do it. You'll see why in a minute. So we titled each of the camera clips with an easy to understand title, and then we select all the clips, right click and do new multicam clip. Boom. Now you can title it whatever you like here. I'll call it Who's Next Gig, or no, I'll call this multicam because it's the multicam clip we're creating, and the band is called Who's Next. Use audio for synchronization, and it will use the audio from each camera clip to sync them together, and leave it otherwise like that. And it's going to go into the default event folder. To understand all about that, if you don't, then watch my full tutorial linked in the description below. It's very important you understand the library and the event folder structure. If you don't, you'll get into a whole load of trouble. Okay, so watch my video which shows you all about that. Okay, we create our multicam clip. Boom. Now this thing increments up. It'll do it quickly this time because I did it once already. But the first time I did it with these 4 clips, it took about 5 minutes. But bear in mind, 2 of these clips are 3 hours long. Actually, 3 of them are 3 hours long. Okay, so it was quicker that time, but it will take a bit of time the first time you do it. Now this pops up for me saying not enough disk space. Don't worry about that. That's just because this Mac is running off a tiny little 256GB SSD drive, and there isn't enough space left on that root drive for Final Cut to transcode the media, which is what it really wanted to do. But it will still work, don't worry. So click, just get rid of that, OK. And there is our created multicam. OK. Now, we can't drag it down onto the timeline because there isn't one. So we've got to create a project first. So new project, title it, I'm going to call it Who's Next Gig. Just leave it on this. Don't go into custom settings, just leave it in the automatic settings like that. Okay. Boom. Okay. Now we have an empty project or timeline. Oh, now we can drag our multicam clip into the timeline and drop it in like that. Boom. There it is. Now what we see is just this block. And if we go up, let me zoom out with Command minus, like that. If I go down the footage, wherever I go down, we're always looking at just one of the cameras, and we only see this one block here, and you think, what the hell's going on? Why can't I see the other 3 cameras? Okay, well, what you need to do is this. We go to View, Show Angles, and then this panel appears here. And now, let's drag that across. We can see the 4 separate cams. And now it says where the titles come in. You see that these easy to understand titles? This is the center cam, that's the close cam, that's the left cam, and that's the rear cam. All titled easy to understand. That's why it was worth titling the clips with an easy to understand title. Okay. Now, there are the clips, the cams. By default, if you mouse over any of them, a razor blade appears, meaning that wherever the playhead is, if I click on any of these clips with the razor blade, at the point that the playhead is, it will cut to that clip, that camera. Okay? But by default, at the moment, this first clip is being used as the default clip that we see, and it's also the default clip that we're listening to for the soundtrack. In the top right corner there is a little icon of a video frame and a little waveform. So this is the default clip that we both see and listen to. Now with the icon here selected for video and audio, we can make any of those 4 clips the default clip that we are seeing and listening to. All you do is mouse over one of the other clips. The razor blade is there, but hold down Alt and the hand appears. Click, and now this is the default camera and audio we're listening to. Or this one, hold down Alt, the mouse hand appears. Click. Now this is the default that we're listening to and seeing. The default video and the default soundtrack. Or again, the stage rear cam, mouse over it, we see the razor blade, but hold down Alt, the little hand appears, click, and now this is the default camera that we're both watching and listening to. So any of the cams footages in your multicam clip can be the default for both the video and the soundtrack, or they can be separate. If I want one of the cams to be the default audio, I click the audio icon like that. It's now highlighted. Now I can mouse over this clip, hold down Alt, the hand appears, click, and this has the audio icon. So we're listening to this camera footage while this cam with the little camera frame icon is the one by default we're watching all the time on the top. Okay, so I can make any one the default soundtrack. Now I've got the soundtrack icon selected, mouse over, hold down Alt, now we're listening to this one while watching this one. Now we're listening to this one while watching this one, etc. So I'm going to choose this one for the soundtrack. Then I switch to the video icon, and I can now choose, we've set this as the soundtrack one that we're always listening to, but now we can choose which one is the default upper layer for the video with the video icon selected. Mouse over this, hold down Alt, hand appears, click, and now this is the default video on the top while we listen to this as the default audio. Or now this is the default camera we're watching while this gives us the default audio. Now this is the default camera we're watching while this gives us the sound. So any of the clips can be the default for the sound and video, or you can have a separate one as the default video and a separate one as the default audio. Okay, right. So I'm going to go with the close cam, video icon selected, mouse over, razor blade is there, hold down Alt, click with the hand icon. Right, we're going to use the close cam, this one, which is to the stage right, and sometimes it's zoomed in on an individual person and sometimes it's further away like that. He moves this cam around, it's being handheld, right? Okay, so that's the default cam, and we're listening always to this camera's soundtrack no matter which video we clip out of the 4 cams we switch to. That's that done. Okay, and now all we do is this. It's so simple now. Let's tidy things up first. The way that these things were set is the film guy set the cameras up in the venue in different locations, but he couldn't get to the 4 cameras to switch them on at the moment the band came on stage. That wouldn't be possible. So he put the cameras set up in their different positions on their tripods, apart from the close cam being handheld at the front of the stage right. And once he set the cams up, they were all put into record, so they're all recording just the venue empty with this video in the background being played on a screen at the back of the stage, a documentary about the Who, as the audience comes in and everything. So all this start part of the video, the first 3/4 of an hour, is just the stage being filmed and then the audience comes in, and then further along here the band comes on. Now they're starting to play around here. So just go to that point. This is where they're coming on stage there, somewhere around there. So all this is unrequired footage. So with the default icon for the mouse, which is the arrow, the select tool, right? We just drag that back down the timeline, so we got a later start. Now I hold down Command plus to zoom in, and let's find where the band starts playing. I think they're still tuning up here. Right, somewhere there, so let's go further down, drag the start back. They're going to come in somewhere here. Let's just zoom in a bit more. Let's have a look. Right, there we go. There's the start of the gig. There. So I'll just bring this a little bit further back in time. And there's the start. Right, a little bit further back, like that, let's say. Right, that's me start. Now, we're watching by default this cam, the close cam, while listening to the left of stage cam for the soundtrack. But we're seeing this as the default cam on the top, and it's simplicity itself. All you do now is you go along the timeline. When you get to a certain point where you want to switch to a different cam, like wherever the playhead is, you just go here and you choose the clip, and with the default razor blade just click on it, right? So look, if I put the mouse there and hit play, It zooms into the guitarist, and then let's say I want to switch at that point after this camera zoomed in on the guitarist. I want to switch to this camera. I just click it with the razor blade, which is the default here. Boom, and it switches to that. For video, not for the audio. The audio is staying on this from that cam because we got the video icon selected there. The video there. So at that point where I click with the razor blade, it switched from the default cam, the close one, to that one. It's that simple. That's all you do. So now look in the timeline here, you can see there's where I did the cut by clicking on that clip there, and it switched to that cam. Now let's say at this point here I want to switch to the left cam. Just mouse over it, the razor blade's there, click, and it puts a cut in to switch to the left cam. Okay, now let's say I did that a little bit early. He brings the mic up and sings about there. So let's say I've made that cut to the left cam a little bit early. Well, I'll just go to where the cut is and just drag it a bit further down to where he brings the mic up and sings. Like, here we go. Now he brings the mic up again there to sing. I'll just back up a little, and then we're going to switch to the close cam with him in it. Boom, and it switches to that cam there. Yeah, and then say if I want to then switch to a different cam wherever, let's say I switch to the back cam there, and then a little bit further down there I switch to the front cam, then a little bit further down there I switch to the side cam, and then a little bit further down there back to the close cam. But it's just putting the edits in by just clicking on which camera you want at that point. Okay, look, it's not playing very smoothly, but that's because I'm video capturing at the same time, and it's having to try and work with all these clips at the same time. It's a bit much for this Mac to do that and do a video screen capture at the same time. But in real life it'll be smooth. Now, every edit you put in by razor blading on the different cam at the point you want that cam to be switched to, right? It's a straight block edit. In other words, it goes along and switches to the next cam. Switches a straight cut, like an instant cut, like that. Cut, cut, cut. But if you want a transition, just bring your transitions in. Right, and let's say we wanted to make this a transition instead of a straight cut. Let's say we wanted it to be a cross dissolve. You just drag that over and drop it there, and that becomes a cross dissolve edit. In my main tutorial I'll show you how to adjust those, you know, adjust the end or the start or whatever. Yeah, and there it is, lovely jubbly. There's the time of the dissolve there. Now 1 second by default. If you want to shorten that, there is a way to do it. You don't grab the top right or left edge, you grab the bottom and shorten the cross dissolve. So now it's less than a second. See, so I've done a cross dissolve there. If you want any of the transitions to not be a straight cut edit, let's say we'll make this one a fade to black and then fade up from black. Let's make it shorter, like that. A little tiny quick dip to black and back up from black. Wait for it to render. Like that. There's a fade to black. This is a cross dissolve. Or if I want to do, let's say, a flash one, there are all these different. Let's do a flash. Drop it onto that edit. Again, we'll make it shorter like that. Wait for it to finish rendering. The little dots to go away. And now I'll put a transition here, a transition here, and a transition here. But this one just has a straight cut from one cam to the next cam, just instant cut. So if you want, you can put transitions in. It's that easy. I'm sorry it's a bit staggering like that, but as I said, it's just that I'm trying to it's trying to handle 4 bits of cam footage and the video capture at the same time, so it's a bit much for it to do really. But that's it. That's how you do multicam editing. It is so easy, so easy. Yeah. So just bear in mind, this is the one we chose for the soundtrack, but if you had a pro quality properly recorded soundtrack separate to the camera footages recorded to a digital recorder, you would include that as part of your multicam set, and it wouldn't have a picture, but you would choose that as your soundtrack clip, and then with the video selected you razor blade between the different camera clips while always listening to the same soundtrack. You see? That's it, it's that simple. It's it's so easy. Now if at any point you want to expand it and see the different layers, there's no need to, but if you want to, just double click on any part of this block, whether or not there are edits cut into it, and it expands out to see the layers. To get rid of that, go to this arrow here and step back in the timeline history, and it puts it back to just a block like that, a single block again, and you just switch between the cams by clicking with the razor blade. It's that simple, man. It's so simple. It's just a shame I can't show you this playing smoothly. I can make it a bit smaller, but I don't think it will help because it's just trying to handle so many bits of information at the same time, as well as screen capture. But here we go, let's have a look. And if you want to get rid of a transition like that fade to black one there, just select the transition backspace and it's gone, and it's back to just a straight cut edit now. It doesn't get rid of the edit, it just gets rid of the transition. There was a transition there, it's gone now. That's just a straight thing again. Static, let's put a static transition there. There it is. Wait for it to finish rendering. There we go. You know, it's easy. Select the transition, backspace, it's gone, and you're back with just a straight block edit. Edits can be moved around to make them later in time, earlier in time. Simple. Just to fine tune that edit once you've dropped it in by clicking with the razor blade. Yeah, that's how simple it is, man. It is. It's so simple, it's ridiculous. But that's how you do multicam editing. Easy peasy. All right, see ya. Oh, and by the way, check the main video in the description below. It is the best Final Cut tutorial on YouTube, I promise you. It covers absolutely everything, and I explain it in a way that it's so easy to understand, yeah? So check it all out. Alright, see you guys, bye.